Got the head back from the machine shop. Put me a new deck on there. Looks good. Even got that pesky plug out of there without tearing the threads up. A little bit dirty on the external, but as long as the block doesn't actually go out that far on some of these dirty places. As long as the sealing area around the piston's good and the water jackets. And there again, the block just runs through here. No scratches, no dents, no flash. It's flat again. It's clean enough. I went ahead and put a fine thread screw in this oil control orifice to have a look at it. It looks alright. I just threaded that screw in there a couple of turns and took a pair of needle nose and plucked it up out of there. Make sure it's installed. I don't see any O-ring in the bottom. It must be the one on top there. It really fits tight. And I don't see any reason to interfere with that. I'll spray the center out of it and slip it back down in there. Cooled off a little bit, it'll shrink it some. That oil control valve, it's just a fixed aluminum block. Now the original equipment didn't have an O-ring in here. And it's flush with the top of this bearing. I assume it just transmits the oil right on through it without no O-ring. I can't remember seeing one in it, but there's a place for one. So I'm not going to worry about it. And I want to blow any loose debris off of it. And before I degrease this surface with paper towel and brake cleaner, I'm using brake cleaner that flashes off. It's non-chlorinated. And that stuff dries fast and doesn't leave any residue behind. I've already got the surfaces cleaned up on the exhaust and intake part of it. And always wipe your surface off if you're going to be laying it down on the machine edge. You don't want any problems with this part. I'm going to put a drop of oil on top of the valve stem, the rod in the center of the spring, and probably a drop on top of these retainers. Little gaps in them. Down all 16 of them. And then I'll finalize the surface, degreasing it. And I can rip that oil in between the spring with a real small zip tie dipped in a cap of oil. It likes it. I took a reasonably white rag with brake cleaner on it and went over the deck, staying out of the combustion chambers, and just kept wiping it down until the rag come back clean. And go over it and make sure there's no lint sticking out of the water jackets from wiping it down. There's a piece there. With dry, clean fingers. I don't want that interfering with the seal. But it's degreased, relatively lint free. I went ahead and set a straight edge on it. I mean, it's flat. About 2/1000ths of a problem anywhere. That should be good. I took an air hose and lightly blowed any particles off of the surface. I'm going to apply some paint stripper to the deck of the block to clean the old painted head gasket and some of the grit off of the block. Be advised that anything that paint stripper comes in contact with that's painted will be destroyed. So I'm going to just take a wooden paddle and dab that all over the block. Let it set a half hour or so. Cook some of that old grit off of it. I rotated the engine a little bit off the top dead center, feeding the timing belt with it, taking up the slack on the front. Just kind of turn it backwards a little bit. And I got a layer of paint stripper on there. It's undesirable to get it down into the oil jacket, preferably not in the head bolt holes or the oil returns or any water jackets. And anything running down the cylinder walls should be wiped up. Don't want it on the pistons either, at least not on the cylinder walls. I'll let that set about 20 minutes and clean it off and do it again if it needs it. I took some paper towels and wiped all the paint stripper off of the deck. Those paper towels should be disposed of and not come into contact with any paint. And then I went over the deck with some brake cleaner 2 times with a paint stripper. I still got a little bristle here and there. It needs straightened up. I'm taking some 800 scuff pad and cutting little inch size blocks off of it and dragging them around the center cylinders. And I'll save the perimeter for last. The 2 in the center got cleaned up pretty good. The first and last one's still yet to go. You really can't dig in with this for very long. Just take the dirt off of it. Not pressing super hard. I've laid paper towels folded up in the cylinders. They're half sheets of paper towels. And if there's some dirt to the outside edge, I'll focus more on it. And if it's more on the steel liner, I'll put some more pressure on the inside. There is some grit that comes off of this, and the cylinder should be shot back out after the paper towels are removed. It's not really enough to be a game changer, but any grit in the cylinder is bad. It's not desirable. But about 6 or 7 back and forth passes is all you really want to put on it. Be taking any metal off. Just leaving like a real fine dust on there. And I want to take a shot back and vacuum that dust off. also put paper towels in the wheel returns, and in the other jackets, the bolt holes I'm not too worried about. And that's going pretty good. A little bit right there. Little speck. And that's what it looked like before. And I'll keep going until I finish that cylinder. Like I say, I don't want to dig into this metal, just get the dirt off of it. Always keep your light at a right angle to the deck so you can see the details appearing as you clean it. It's starting to straighten up a little bit. Like I say, about a 5/16 border around any water jacket is all you need. And past that, like the dirty trim area there, I just use a razor blade to knock off anything sticking up. It's outside the sealing area. You don't want anything higher than the block. A little bit dirty through there. And in the back. And if a scuff pad starts getting kind of weak and falling apart, cut off another piece. And once you do a little patch, shop back any grit up as soon as possible and not let it blow around into places it don't need to get into. I'll set a straight edge on there since the deck's clean now, and check with a 2000s filler gauge anywhere and see if it can fit under there. Because if the deck's warped, the head gasket probably ain't going to hold, but it sure would be a pain to straighten that out. Just put another motor in it, reckon. But I'll set the straight edge here in the middle and on this row of head bolts, and then diagonal, and check underneath all surfaces along the edge of that straight edge. I've got the deck as clean as it's going to get without removing necessary metal. So I'm going to work on the two manifolds. Just lay a piece of cardboard over the deck so I don't scratch it. I need to clean the exhaust flange off on the face of the manifold and the intake gasket. And I've already matched the replacement gasket up with the holes on this one. Went ahead and unhooked that other coolant line for the preheater, so I can prop that intake up on something a little higher. That gasket is hard. I'm using a Scotch-Brite pad and a razor blade to pick that gasket off. Thin it down with this Scotch-Brite pad on the drill. You gotta watch and not get it into the aluminum. It'll sure tear it up pretty fast. Just thin the gasket down with that pad and then use a razor blade to pick it off, clean it up. There's one port done. And I went ahead and shoved paper towels in all the ports so I don't have to flush the intake out while it's in there. I'll put a little piece in this water jacket. Keep the sand and grit out of there. Because the runners are heading down and all the stuff will head right down the bottom of the throttle body, and it'll be a pain to flush it out in the vehicle. Moving right along. Be sure and stuff some rags around your timing belt hole so you don't get debris down in that. And you may close up the manifold holes if you're really throwing them, so you don't get debris on top of the catalytic converter. Just a little bit more to go. We'll be careful around the water jacket not to skin it up. The intake ports will take a few scratches and gouges. It's not as critical as this water jacket is. So I'll send the gasket down around it more toward start this corner while I've got some gasket to support that Scotch-Brite pad on the other side. Send it down from the end to the center on out, and then use a razor blade and pick the gasket off slow but sure. And I'm shot back in the dust off in between trips through here. It's looking pretty good. This work is pretty monotonous. But once you send this gasket down a little bit, it gets a little hot. It kind of takes some of the teeth out of it. This gasket has a steel sealing ring around the water jacket, or an aluminum one, whichever the case may be. It's probably aluminum. Tin, something cheap. And so on and so forth. I shop vacuumed all the dust off, got the manifold cleaned up. And if you use a shop vac to pull the paper towels out, make sure you get 4 of them out of there. And 1 in the coolant port if used. And I pushed the intake back far enough so that the head bolt studs won't run into it when I go to set the head on. And I'm shot back out the cylinders. I took a shop towel with some brake cleaner and wiped the ports out for the intake. And the injectors, wipe those off with something clean. I'm filling the head bolt holes with brake cleaner, and then you can either vacuum them out or take an air hose and pressure them out, or a twisted up paper towel and soak them out. You want those holes clean and dry before the new bolts go in. I'm leaving their pistons in their halfway down position currently, and I put just a thin layer of regular motor oil on the cylinder walls, real thin. I doubt if they'll even pull up on the rings. Just coat them a little bit. I'll take some clean paper towels and go around each cylinder bank with brake cleaner on it, and keep wiping the deck off until the paper towel comes back clean. And when you can take a paper towel around every bit of the surface and it comes back clean, you're in business. Just be sure not to get it inside of the cylinder. And keep plenty of brake cleaner on it. And once it's grit free, carbon free, you shadow the block and look for pieces of lint from the paper towel or any rags. I hold a light sideways at it and look along the sealing areas for any lint, debris sticking up, or any imperfections. It's going to cause a problem. And I've degreased the intake already. So I'm going to find my dowel pins and insert them back in the block and set the head gasket on it. And check the holes on the block for any lint or imperfections sticking up. Make sure it's degreased and that the bolt holes are dry. And I'll set a head gasket down on it. This gasket will fit on there more than one way, but it only lines up one way. If it's upside down, then these two outer head bolts are off with one another. Other than that, it goes. Both surfaces are clean and degreased. The new head gasket's laying on the block. It's lint free. Debris is blown off of it. Now for reusing old head bolts, brush off the threads till they're clean, and then I just pour some oil in a rag. It's not dripping with it. I want to roll the threads on the oil, but not so that it's pulling up on them. And then I want to drag the rag under the washer and the bolt head itself, so it's slippery. As I say, the threads don't actually have oil standing in them. They're just damp. And I'm gonna do all the head bolts that way. Make sure none of this cardboard sticking to them. Okay, here it goes. Head bolts are all lubed up lightly so that they won't squeak or drag. Head's orientated in a position I can grab it and set it down on the block. And the intake's back at least 2 fingers from the farthest this head gasket. That's how long the studs are on the intake mount. There's no debris on the gasket. Timing belt's pulled back out of the way. The only thing, you set the head over there, you got to make sure you're headed for the dowel pins. You do not want to walk the head around on these sharp tubes. It will just gouge the bottom of the head up, and nobody will be happy about that. But the gasket's on there. It's covering all the holes. All the bolt holes will go through this gasket. And there's no holes exposed that shouldn't be. Just mainly hover over it with the head and look down through the holes. Just make sure you got plenty of light. And ease it down on there. And if you miss the dowel pins, take 90% of the weight back off of the head and ease it over to them. The manifold's down out of the way, so it won't be getting into any of the studs sticking out of the head. Should be ready to go. I never set the head down on anything, the machine surface anyway, on any of the car's body. But I can see the dowel pins through the holes. And there's one. There's the other. Just like downtown. Now I start dropping the head bolts down in it. And don't forget the pistons, it's all out of time. I don't want to set the cam in and the rockers until I put the piston up on top dead center. So I want to get the head tightened down before I do that. So I get the head bolts and start dropping them down in to the respectable holes. Mouse over the video and hit the circle I to continue to the next part of the video.